Hello and welcome to Of the People Live. Thank you so much for joining us today. A world at war, a world on fire, and regime change. When you look around the world, there's conflict everywhere. Russia attacks Ukraine. Hamas attacks Israel. The Houthi rebels continue to fire missiles into the Red Sea, attacking U.S. ships, international shipping, as well as now Chinese shipping. Let's see how that goes over well with the Chinese, right? Iran continues to foment terrorism around the world. The Philippines is heading to conflict with China. And then you have Haiti, the conflict of which we bear, as the United States, a lot of responsibility for where we're at with this. Coming to your shores right soon would be my guess. Everywhere you look around the world, there is conflict. Against this backdrop, we now learn that the United States, ladies and gentlemen, has permanent troops stationed in Taiwan. Now, we support an independent Taiwan and is certainly not part of China, regardless of what China claims that it is. But we now have troops on the Chinese border, functionally speaking. I will say, though, let's be careful. Anytime the United States uses the word permanent, the Biden administration uses the word permanent, you have to sort of look at it with a jaundiced eye, because the word Afghanistan comes to mind and the abysmal withdrawal that the Biden administration, the feckless Biden administration, executed, no pun intended, in Afghanistan, leaving our friends and allies there basically hanging by a rope, right? So all of this, the world is at war, and everywhere you look, the world is at war. And then you have the United States, Senator Schumer, calling for regime change in the middle of Israel's war to defeat Hamas, right? And now we see the United Nations Security Council has just passed a resolution calling for a ceasefire in the war against Gaza. I'm sorry, the war against Hamas. They did not link it to releasing the hostages. They did not condemn Hamas for launching the war on October 7th. No, Israel is the aggressor. Israel is the oppressor nation, and Israel needs to have a ceasefire for humanitarian purposes. What they also didn't tell you is there is now a proposition that the UN is bringing forward for an arms embargo against Israel because they are committing genocide in Gaza. That's what they're saying. So the US's reaction to all of this, the Biden administration's reaction, they abstain. The ultimate act of cowardice. This is a feckless, ineffective, incompetent foreign policy. Everywhere around the world you look, the world is on fire. Now, you don't have to call it a war. Maybe it's not World War III, but it's certainly in conflict everywhere you look. And the lesson here is simple. Weakness invites aggression. It's true in the schoolyard, and it's true in international politics. And everywhere around the world that you're looking, this is what we see here. Everywhere. The Biden administration is more concerned with currying favor with voters in Michigan, Muslim voters in Michigan, right? Let's call them what are Hamas voters, the Hamas lobby in Michigan, than they are with support defending our borders, than they are with really defending our allies in Israel. And let's not forget, you may not have heard this as recently, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, there was an imam, a religious cleric in Michigan named, let's see if I got this right, Abdu Zidani, I believe was the gentleman's name, who called for all Muslims to kill Jews like sheep. So number one, folks, Islamic extremism is here in this country. Number two, why that's not a hate crime, I don't know. Number three, why the FBI is investigating, I sure the hell don't know. But it shows you that the Biden administration calling for the regime change in a friendly government who's at war, on a war footing, against trying to curry favor just for re-election. It's ridiculous. If you look back at all of this, we alienated the whole Trump-Russia hoax. We alienated Russia, pushed them into China's camp. We're alienating Israel, pushing them into whoever's camp, but other than ours. And don't forget, Kamala Harris came out and said that if Israel goes into Rafah to finish the job, right? To basically eliminate Hamas, to make Israel safe so they don't have another attack, right? That's what this really is. There will be consequences, like, I guess, an arms embargo. There are two truths in politics. One is real politics, capital R, small k. An enemy of my enemy is my friend. Israel will survive. But the feckless and incompetent Biden administration policy is unforgivable. The second truth in politics, especially international politics, is that when your friends no longer trust you and your enemies no longer fear you, these are perilous times indeed. So we do agree with the Biden administration that it's time for regime change, but it's time for changing the Biden regime this November and getting some adults in the room who understand that sometimes strength has to be shown in international relations because it keeps the bullies at bay. And we are no longer going to refer to them as the Biden administration because it's really the Biden regime. And like Chuck Schumer said of Israel, the Biden regime needs to be changed. And we need some adults in the room this November. Time for regime change. And that's the monologue.